a company called Synopsys, right? I'm happy to introduce that. I came across it just reading a couple of news, preparing for this podcast, and of course this live feed. So bear with me as I introduce you to Synopsys. Not many people may know about it. I know certainly I didn't. Anthony, Jeff, did you guys know about this company before I am about to talk about it? No? Okay. Cool. So Synopsys is actually a electronic, what they call themselves as an electronic design automation company. Effectively, they're a silicon company, and they design and verify chips, right? Semiconductors and manufacturing chips, right? So we have covered this, I think 2 months ago with regard to the chip shortage, the global chip shortage, right? That we've faced in Q4 and expecting to face in early 2022 as well. And that's what they do. So they do a few things. Number one, they design their own chips. They help other people design chips as well. And lately, in the past couple of years, they've also verified chip designs. So it's, if I tell you a quick sort of supply chain, is you design your chips, then you go to a fabricator to fabricate it, then you go to effectively a chip verifier to make sure that all of the parts of the chips is working well, and then at the end you want to efficiently use it with software. So they do effectively everything with the exception of fabrication, right? That's what I'm reading. Any of your listeners out there, if you have information that they have fabricated, please let me know, but I could not find it. So they do
Intel without the foundries.
Yes, as far as I can know, right? And they started off with chip architecture and only lately moved into verified chip designs a year or two ago. Okay. And they've sort of cornered the market as far as I can read into that space. I don't have the exact figures in terms of market cap because semiconductors is quite convoluted, quite complex. But listeners out there, if you do like this space, please let us know on Telegram. We're more than happy to do a stock geek out on the semiconductor industry and specifically for Synopsys, right? So this is what they do, right? And their chips and their chip designs and their architectures are actually present in self-driving cars, any form of Internet of Things, consumer products as well, right? So that's pretty cool. They've been on the rise in 2021. Actually, I think they grew something like 14% from 2020 to 2021. And now having 4.2 billion
share price or revenue or profit or revenue?
14% revenue.
Okay.
Revenue. Right? To 4.2 billion in 2021. Out of that 4.2 billion in 2021, Q4 attributed 1.1 billion. So we have seen that sort of growth that we saw in Q4. And when we talk about it, Q4 was the time we talked about the chip shortage. Yeah. So in order for them to have still an increase is kind of, sort of the complete opposite that I thought it was going to be. I thought it would be flat or it would go down because, people are not manufacturing chips as fast as they could and people need more chips. Yeah, but it looks like it's the inverse.
But I mean, I thought increasing revenues in the chip shortage makes sense, right? Because the shortage is there's too much demand. So to the extent that there's so much demand, all these processes about verification, maybe a bit of architecture, those will naturally also increase in a sense, I think.
Verification wouldn't, right? Because it's after the fab. But you're right. The design could be, and this is where actually they make most of their revenue as well. Okay. They design the architecture, so you could definitely say that that's part of Q4, and that's what they're looking towards. Now, here's the thing as well. They have very, very good fundamentals. Their debt is at 600 million, and their cash in bank is 1.5 billion, right? Yes. And so effectively, that's how much of cash they have, which is awesome. And just in and in their Q4 earning, the Q3 earnings call, they actually mentioned that they have completed a buyback of shares of 700 million. And this is the 1.5 billion in cash is after that, right? Which brings me to my next point. Why did they do the buyback? These sort of things. But I want to dive a little bit into that, into what their strategy is, in this year and the next 5 years.
Yep.
But I think one thing to look at here is price to sales is at 12, price to book is at 9.
But I think they're not a tech company in that sense, right? So they're not going to have huge operating margins. Maybe I
Yes.
don't know. And so you can't really give them like the price to sales of someone like HubSpot or Amplitude or like 30,
course not.
40, because it's just fundamentally a different nature of the company.
So yes, so usually I will look at this sort of industry prices between 10 to 15. At least when I was looking at the industry wide, I was trying to make sense of all this data.
Yep.
And I do see a range between 10 to 15. So there's somewhere in between. But I think before I just get back into the share buyback and what they're trying to do, what are you guys' quick thoughts on this company, on this industry? Maybe we can start with Anthony.
Cool. I think they're again riding on a trend. I don't know. I mean, from what we have heard, I don't know if it's that fantastic, to be honest. and why I say that is this, right? So there's a company with decent amount of cash, and they are going on a huge wave in the industry, but they have nothing better to do except to buy back shares. Right? They are not. I mean, they have enough cash to reinvest. They could do a lot of other things, but I'm just going to prop up my share price and buy back shares. So to me, it becomes a bit of a capital allocation issue. Right? Every decision that they make, they have cash. What do they do with it? Should I grow my business, grow my revenue more, expand different product lines, invest in the future, or I return to shareholders? And they chose to return to shareholders, which is great as a shareholder. But maybe,
Absolutely.
Can be a bit of a warning sign if taken too far as well.
Got it. Jeff, any thoughts here before I carry on a bit?
It's really a matter of how well they can perform their R&D, right? Like you've mentioned already, good financials, fundamentals, even good approval of the management as well. All these are sound business model, like things that we look at. But like what Anthony was saying, there's definitely other companies out there that are also doing similar things. Like Samsung is also trying to come out with their own AI design chips, and Google is also doing that as well. So what's the edge that
what makes this special?
Is gonna put out there, and say, hey, we are gonna be the primary EDA supplier to the whole world in that sense. That's something that has to stand out. And I think they had that run in. I read into it a little bit here and there. They had a run in 2017, 2018, that period of time when Intel basically selected them as primary EDA supplier. And look where they are right now, right? They are still not very well known in the market itself.
Industry, correct.
So that's something that to me we definitely have to look into a little bit more before I will decide whether it's worth a buy in that sense.
Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, that's exactly what you're saying, right? So they mentioned that they were looking to get sort of this cash and reinvest in themselves. And they opened up a AI development, or they just started this sort of AI where they want the AI to sort of develop chips, right, and create this architecture in the next 5 to 6 years. That's effectively their bet. That's why I believe they've done a buyback, because they do see the value in that company or in their own company, or they feel they have too much cash, right? that could be. But so they've started this AI department that's looking for it to grow, looking for it to scale. On my side, I think I'm going to keep a close eye on this. I, again, completely agree with you and Jeff. I don't know where they're going to be. I don't know what is their full USP. Maybe it's the execution that they will go ahead with the AI, because you've got Google behind it. You've got a lot of other companies who are looking to grow into this, right?
Yeah.
But I think one thing to note, though, is that their internal employees love working there, and they actually do approve of management, right? So one of the things that I look at when I look at stocks is I look at the Glassdoor, right? Just like every interview that you look at Glassdoor. I look at Glassdoor for stocks, but I also look at where they're hiring and how fast they're hiring, and they seem to be hiring quite a fair bit with regards and globally as well. They have an office in Singapore. I didn't even realize. So that's pretty cool as well. I think it's good just to keep an eye. have a look in this industry, and I think it's one industry I'm looking to dive a little deeper in as well in the semiconductor space.
Yeah, I mean, semis are interesting. Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting space to look into, right? Because Synopsys has always been more of a company that like I'm still going to harp on the point where they are trying to come up with their own chips, right? But it has always been a company where it does chip design, software kind of thing. Like even if you look into like all the different AI chips that are being designed by or built by Samsung and whatnot, they are all using Synopsys. So they're using this tool called DSO.ai, which essentially is something that has been far-reaching, and a lot of the other companies have already been using for a very long time as well. But for Synopsys to come up with their own chips itself, to me it feels like a slight stretch in that sense, because you gotta have the whole infrastructure to build the hardware, right? And it's a totally different ball game and cost altogether. Whereas like Samsung, Google, they already have that capabilities that already built out there. And in fact, like Synopsys is also have a direct competitor in the software space, Cadence. That's another one to look at as well if you are into this. So a lot of things could change in the next couple of years, but I think the barriers to entry for them to build their own chips or microprocessors is definitely one that's very high. Yeah.
Okay, wait, sorry, Jeff, just one question. That I think you were mentioning that these chip designers all kind of have to use Synopsys in their chip design process, right? So
yes.
In essence, they are a bit, if you can draw a very bad analogy, I'm assuming it's bad. They are a bit like, Adobe, they provide you the software to read PDFs or to design and all of that. But now they want to be the one actually making the design, right? That's slightly different. If that energy is even roughly correct, that seems to me to be a relatively big jump in skill set, right? And they're saying, oh no, we are not doing traditional chip design. We are going to do it by AI, which again, it's not necessarily they're forte, right? Unlike Google, unlike all of that, who have AI expertise in from other segments they can pull in. So it feels as we talk about it that this is just I have buzzwords and I'm just going to keep doing it, right? Because I mean, if you're going to really compete in AI, compete in machine learning, 1B is nothing, right? Google can throw multiples of that at a problem. So why are they doing it? Again, back to capital allocation. Why are they buying back shares? Why are they not, really competing and really investing in it? I think that's my question. Which, maybe we read more about it. We'll find out, and then 6 months later, we know the answer to it, or Thomas can come and tell us, or Reggie can come and tell us this is why you're wrong. Fine, I'm more than happy to be wrong. But I think at this very initial stage, something feels slightly off. For now.